Welcome to A Course of Love. We're on chapter 4 of the fourth treatise, and we're continuing along the same veins as the previous chapter of chapter 3 of the fourth treatise. This chapter is called The Inheritance of Everlasting Life. What he's trying to do in these chapters is to dislodge our idea of what our experience is going to be here. In verse 2, he tells us, "You do not realize that your nature and the nature of your life, like that of all around you, is governed by seasons natural to the state of love, seasons of regeneration." Now, the whole concept of seasons is really familiar to us. And even as we apply it to our own personal lives, we consider birth to be a season, and maturing, growing up to be a season, and living as a mature person to be a season, and dying to be a season. And so we can see ourselves fitting these four seasons. But the part that we don't get is that it begins again. There's not an end to the season. So we have a situation where we have something consistent going on. There's life. And there's something that changes, that evolves, that shifts. And that's the nature of life itself. There is a baseline that stays the same, an energy, if you will, that stays the same, and a fluctuation. So he moves then in the chapter to talking about the idea of inheritance, how in our world we're accustomed to the concept of inheritance, that it's part of the changing of the seasons kind of a feel. When the father passes away or the mother passes away, they leave their accumulation of goods to their children. When the parent matures into an adult and is ready for retirement, the children take over as the productive members of society. And so it goes. And we expect it, and we're comfortable with that. There's something about it that seems right. So he takes that idea of inheritance and plays with that a little bit. Verse 6. What my life, and this is Jesus speaking, demonstrated was a capacity for inheritance not based upon death. Okay, just take that in for a minute. He says, yeah, the whole inheritance idea is right, but it's not about death. My life, death, and resurrection revealed the power of inheritance, the power of the Father as one of life-giving union. I called you then, and I call you now to this inheritance. So he's talking about something that we mature into, we come to a recognition of, and we receive the inheritance from the Father being, of course, not a man in the sky with a beard, but the great universal power that's running everything, the power of creation, that energy, that life force. The change of elevating the personal self is part of a pattern of life everlasting that is long overdue. You have been rejecting your inheritance. So let's go back. He's talking about the inheritance as being something that we get from that life force. So we have been rejecting the fact that life everlasting, that energy, that power, that eternalness, that divinity is actually our inheritance that we are receiving from the whole life force, the one. And we've been rejecting it. Verse 9, you have the awareness and thus the ability to accept the continuity of life everlasting. So you know it's a concept, you know it's possible. Just the fact that you have that knowingness, that there's a place for that in your head, shows that you have the ability to accept it. Now, he reminds us this is not about immortality, about bodies living forever. And again, he spent some time talking about how a lot of people don't really think that's a good idea to live forever because this world is so challenging. So what then do we look forward to? A happy death? A good afterlife? Is that what we can expect? But that's not what he's talking about here. And he's actually trying to open our minds to this concept. Verse 12, I'm calling you to the new. I'm calling you to transform. I'm calling even while you still abide in form. So what we're talking about here is something entirely new that hasn't happened before. And if that seems overwhelming, just remember, your very nature is creation. It is your nature to expand and express and grow and create. So you don't have to know exactly where that's going. Just understand that something new is happening here. Your old way of looking at things, of a lifespan, and what it is to be a character in this world, and what your experience here is to be, needs to broaden, needs to expand, needs to make room for transformation of your very self, your very character. This is different from having faith in an afterlife. Faith implies you trust something you don't know. I have faith that we're going to do that. You know, it's really kind of like strong wishful thinking. But true vision sees life everlasting. It is known. It's experienced within yourself. The recognition that, wait a minute. Energy doesn't just vanish. That knowingness that comes from within. Verse 14 tells us, once the return to unity has occurred in form, the decision to continue in form or to not continue in form will be yours. Okay, so let's just have a little reminder here about what the return to unity is about. It's about being in relationship. It's about joining way back in the early chapters of A Course of Love. It's about recognizing that you are one with everything that's happening and creating and immersing yourself in the energy of that, recognizing and experiencing the energy of that as you're in relationship with everything and everyone. When matter has a relationship with the divine, matter becomes the divine and is thus eternal. So matter hasn't actually been divine yet. It's been something else. It's been part of the house of illusion. It's been the game we set up because we wanted to have this experience of separation. That's why it's new. That's what we came here to do, is create this new thing. Because once we remember our true nature while we're in form, form itself joins the divine, becomes divine. Now, this is inevitable, understand. This is going to happen because that's the nature of creation, to ever expand. And everything at every level will eventually come back into the divine because it all came from the divine. Everything. So this is the nature of creation itself, that one consistent thing, that base, that consistent thing is actually creation energy. And then the seasons are the changes, the mutations, the developments, the growth. Only it's not 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons and then start over. 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons, birth, growing up, maturation, death, birth, growing up, maturation, death. That's not it. We don't repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. We move. We expand. We express in a new way. And that's what we're here to do. Verse 15. If you can abide in unity, while in human form, you will have no cause save your own choice to leave human form. Now, this isn't saying you're going to be forced to stay and live in misery forever. It's saying you won't have any cause, you won't have any reason to leave. Why? Because you'll be blissfully creating while in form, because that's your nature. You won't have to die to be reborn as your true self. This is a joining of the personal self, the character you've been playing, with the true self in this reality in which you exist now. He's telling you this is possible now. This is a momentous time in history. This is a momentous season. We are on the edge of something entirely new, and you have chosen to show up here at this time for this exact purpose. So you've come to the right place. Verse 18. To sustain Christ consciousness in form is creation of the new. That's what I was saying. And this union will go beyond expressing self in form. So who knows where this is going to take us? Who knows what stage comes next after this? And who cares? If we're in bliss and we're creating and we're in our true nature, who cares where it takes us? Just get on board and come back to the love that you are, and let the fear drop away and allow your inner higher guidance to take you where you need to know, so that you know this in your bones. Well, deeper than your bones, so that you know it again. And verse 18, it's a really long verse in the book. I just put a little excerpt here. But really, he's talking about how form is going to become a representation of Christ consciousness and will take on the nature of Christ consciousness. And that's what actually Jesus did when he came here in form. And so he says what you're called to do through your multitude is to sustain Christ consciousness. And again, that's that place where we're a human being who knows that the human that they are, the character that they are, is actually divine and is in relationship, divine relationship, joining with everything and everyone that comes across your path. Thus you'll create the union of the human and the divine as a new state of being. This choice will be eternally yours. In other words, you can come back. You won't have to start over again. You can come back and play in matter or in form whenever you want, once you get this. So you can be in this world, you can be in another world, you can explore in another dimension, but you can come back here, you will have mastered it, and you won't have had to die and have amnesia again and come back and start over. You can come back as you like. It will be a choice of your creation, a creation devoid of fear. It will be a new choice. So the main takeaways from this are, this is a new thing that we're doing, and it's inevitable because it's your nature. It's the nature of creation to expand and create something new. So you got caught in form and you thought that this is who you are, but now you know it's not. Now you know it's just a representation of who you are. And as you embrace who you are and embrace what's happening here, you'll step to a new level and you'll be creating something new, and it will just open up new fields of experience for you, new fields of choices and expansion. And it's the next step. So, I mean, it is inevitable. If those of you who are Course in Miracles students know, this is a course that everybody's got to take. You know, everybody's going to get this. It's inevitable because this is how we set it up. It's just your choice as to how long you're going to take to do it and how dedicated you are to letting go of fear, basically. It comes down to that. And if you want to hang on to fear and live a limited life and die and get reborn again, and start over, you have that option, and there's nothing wrong with that option. But if you're ready for something else, and obviously you are, or you wouldn't still be listening to me, and you wouldn't be studying A Course of Love, then you have that opportunity now. So I invite you, and Jesus invites you to accept your inheritance and embrace your true nature while you're still in form. Sending you infinite love. Looking forward to joining you again in Chapter 5. Thank you.